Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Yellowjackets Hive After Dark. I am Media Melanie here with,
and I'm Emily,
and we're here to discuss Yellowjackets episode 203, Digestif. We should start by saying exactly what is a digestif, right? It's an after dinner beverage used to help your digestion or just kind of help things process after a meal. And I think that title worked well for this because it was kind of a slowdown and a little bit of a pause for us to kind of digest everything we've seen in the first two episodes, which were a little crazy. So
yes, it was a nice, not like a break, but like you said, like it ebbs and flows, and this was like a nice little breather to recoup from like the craziness of the end of episode 2, because that was just like pure madness.
It sure was. And we should also note it is Easter today. So we'd like to wish everyone a happy Easter. I got a little festive with our egg coloring and, of course, made a symbol of protection egg for our hunt this morning. And that one reached good on that. And of course, if you celebrate Easter, we would be remiss to not share this photo of Shauna chopping up a rabbit from her garden for rabbit chili. So, we thought that was on point.
Yes.
We actually have a guest joining us today to talk about season 2, episode 3, Digestif. We've got Brian, aka Cinecraft KC from Reddit. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just finished my own Easter dinner.
Nice.
Very nice. Yes, I finished almost right before we did the stream. So hopefully I'm digesting well over here as we discuss Digestif. Emily, why don't we start by reading the show description for this episode?
The girls experience an unusual hangover. Shauna learns the thrill of peer-to-peer car rentals. Natalie audits Lottie's class in emotional apology. Ty reflects, Misty hits the high seas, and you've never attended a baby shower like the one the Yellowjackets throw here. Which is so true.
Yes, most interesting baby shower I think I've ever seen. Before we get started on some of the talking points and we bring some of the fan comments in here, Brian, we're going to would you rather you. Yellowjackets would you rather. Okay. Would you rather steal Shauna's minivan or be questioned on a boat by Walter and Misty?
Questioned on a boat by Walter and Misty.
Okay.
Yeah, that would definitely be mine too.
That's a good choice. I mean, after seeing Shauna and the minivan situation, the monologue that she delivered to the hack shop owner, that was a little intense. Like, don't fuck with Shauna was the message that I took away from that.
No, that was insane. Like, have you ever peeled the skin off of a human corpse? Like, hearing her say that, like, made my skin crawl. Oh my gosh.
For me, it was facial expressions she made. She just, they weren't kidding when the early reviews talked about that scene and saying that would be her Emmy submission reel, because she just runs the gamut. The sadistic pleasure she is trying really hard to suppress at that moment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Ooh, and speaking of Shauna, let's talk about Jeff and Colonial Williamsburg for a second. Like, of all the places that Jeff wants to surprise Shauna to bring her to, he picks Colonial Williamsburg, and like it was really cute, right? Because I mean, he's trying. Like, they talked about the missed opportunity with the strawberry lube and this and that, but Colonial Williamsburg, like I've been there. I went there in 8th grade, and just an interesting choice of a venue to bring your wife who cheated on you. So I don't know. Have you been to Colonial Williamsburg, Brian?
I have not, actually, but I've been to quite a few other sites. My idea of vacation is a week in Washington, D.C., just going to music every day. So for me, that scene kind of confirmed, a lot of Shauna's disturbed nature, because, like, how could anyone be uninterested in a trip to a living history museum?
I mean, there's so much going on there. There's butter churning, blacksmithing. I mean, it's historical, So that was funny. I enjoyed Jeff's choice of venue. So
same.
Yes. Three things that happened in this episode. We usually try to pick three talking points. The baby shower, the white moose, and the dead birds. And also like the bees. Let's throw like the dead birds and the bees, into one category there.
Yeah.
Um, we see adult Lottie having these hallucinations, right? Brian, do you think that the bee hallucination, how does that play into the dead bird situation in the teen timeline? It's interesting the way they put those two things together.
Yeah, I didn't even like correlate them being like happening at the same time, but you're right. Like they really did happen at the same time in the show. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a fascinating dichotomy, and I'll confess, like I did not make that connection actually between the birds and the bees. I was thinking more back to Lottie's, or rather Charlotte's, earlier analogy about the queen stinging to death
Mhm.
and how it's
Yeah.
necessary and natural, or else they'll all starve. And then I felt like this scene was undercutting that in a way that she's trying to justify in her own mind perhaps some of the own actions that she supported or urged along, if not actively participated in. And now she's being confronted with the reality, which is that there are bloody consequences for that kind of Darwinian approach to survival.
Absolutely.
There are indeed bloody consequences. And it was interesting to see, we got a lot of buildup with the blood on Lottie's hands that we were seeing in the teasers and previews for the season.
Yeah.
And now to know that that was actually a hallucination, along with Jen, Raby's girl, another hallucination by
Yeah.
Coach Ben. So it's fascinating what is grounded in reality and what is not. And gosh, speaking of Ben, I mean, how great was it to get some Paul context in this episode? I really enjoyed getting some more backstory on his character.
Yeah, I did too. I think he's a good addition, and I liked how they showed the reality of the conversation that he had with him like before they left, but then they also flash back to the conversation that like he wished he would have had with him about like not going to nationals and like moving in with him and being out and open about his life. Like that's what he wished actually happened. And it was kind of sad at the same time in a way. But like he's clearly not in good shape. Like
No.
I'm really, really fearing for Coach Ben at this point.
It was a terribly tragic scene because this season really seems to be playing up the idea of the unreliable narrator. Like a lot of people believe Charlotte's account of what happened to Travis, and I found myself wondering. I mean, we know that obviously the coda to his flashback is a fantasy, what he wished he would have done, and I found myself wondering, is the rest of that scene also a little bit of wishful thinking that maybe in reality the breakup was far more final and he never had that option to come running back to Paul in a kind of a bold romantic statement. It was very bitter, very very sad.
Yeah, as Shelley pointed out, it was horribly sad. This poor guy is hopeless after the latest event. Absolutely, it's looking rough for his survival. And Drew, interesting question here. Back to the dead birds for a second. Is Shauna's nosebleed tied to the dead birds? The timing of that was very interesting because the nosebleed happened on the symbol on the blanket right before all the birds came dropping down. So what's the correlation there?
I feel like it's tying it back to the whole like sacrifice comes with blood. Like I don't know if those birds like intentionally meant to sacrifice themselves, but they all died for some reason that we don't know. And like we know that the creators want us to lean into it possibly being a supernatural scenario, but then Misty brings up the point of like how they think there's a lot of iron in the ground. So that could have messed with the bird's navigation. So they offer up like a logical explanation at the same time, even if it might not be true, like it presents itself as logical.
It's incredibly fascinating. It's what I love about this show is that you really can straddle the two lines. I was doing a bit of research and I've seen an actual video of a flock of birds flying right into the ground because they think a predator had actually startled them and they tried to get away, and they just went downward right into the ground. And then, nosebleeds are something that a woman in pregnancy can experience. It's not uncommon to have this basis in rationality, but I think the crucial thing is how all these young women interpret these things. I think I've written before how this is about these young girls and their truths, and it almost doesn't matter, as the show creators have said, whether it's supernatural or not. What matters is if they believe it's supernatural, then it becomes supernatural. It becomes real, and they're in a lot of serious trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. There's logical and supernatural pieces to every event, as Shelley's comment is saying. And, it seems like this happened after there is blood shed. And speaking of weird animal things and timing, the moose comes at a time when we saw Nat taking Jackie's bones back to the airplane to bury them like the rest of them. And after she delivers her monologue in this episode, which I thought was really nice, the way that she heartfelt, shared what she thought about Jackie to Jackie, about them eating her, and she might be the reason they survived the winter. But the moose, do we think that it's real? Do we think she actually saw it? The white moose can be a symbol of, different things. It can be sacred. It can be protection. It can also have some bad omens to it. Do we think that it was actually there, not there? Was it Jackie haunting them? What's up with the timing? So many questions about the moose.
I think the moose was real just because, like, when I watched the scene, like, if you look at the snow on the ground after the moose is gone, the snow is physically undisturbed. Like, you can see that the moose had charged at her. So to me, that meant that it's based in reality and it was really there. And I think that they're going to see it again. I think that it's possible that, I don't know if it if it's logical, but we see them all charging at something in one scene. And I think it's possible that maybe it's that moose. Like, maybe they're trying to take the moose down because that would provide them with so much food. Like, that thing was massive.
It was huge. And and I agree. I think it was real. And it kind of it offers some interesting bits of foreshadowing. There was a lot of interesting comments on the Reddit about the white moose, about white animals in indigenous and in Inuit culture having very deep religious significance, and you especially do not kill or harm such an animal. They're extremely special and rare. And I thought it was telling that yes, Natalie takes the shot. I think it's as much out of fear and self-defense, and I'll have to watch it again, but it looks like she misses the moose completely. The shot goes ricochets, so she doesn't kill the moose. That would be an interesting portent that she a harbinger that she may be kind of a more righteous person.
Right. There's another comment here from Hannah. Maybe the moose will lead them to Javi. Now, that would certainly be interesting. Speaking of Javi, we actually have Luciano joining us on the Hive After Dark next week, which we are very excited about. So hopefully we're going to be getting some good Javi insights.
Apply the Steve Walter interrogation methods to try to get him.
I know. Oh my God. I loved seeing Walter. And I should note that for the next episode, we've seen some of the mail coming already for episode 4, which features a VHS tape, a teddy bear, which could be Leonard. And then are those moose tracks? They look like moose tracks. So we probably will be seeing the moose again if we're going by the mail, right?
And it makes me wonder, like, when we see the Antler Queen in the pilot episode, she is wearing a white looking cloak, which could end up being that moose skin if they kill the moose. Like, that would be, it would look similar to that. Like, I don't know. That's just a thought that popped into my head when I saw it initially.
I'm very excited. The elements of the guise of the Antler Queen start to come together, where all they come from.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my, sorry, reading the comments here. Shelly, is Nat going after Laura Lee's body in the water? So I believe what we're talking about is this scene for next week where we see someone falling through the ice, which it looks to me like Nat,
Yeah.
right? Looks
Yeah.
like Nat. So what are they doing on the ice? Why is she under the ice? Was it a trap? Were they hunting the moose over the lake? What are they doing on the ice next week?
I have one possible idea that maybe they attempt ice fishing.
Hmm.
That lake, from what I know about fishing, the really good fish are going to be further out where the water's deeper, where you can't really get at it unless you have a boat during the summer months. So when it's frozen, that would be a good time to try to ice fish. And yeah, I imagine if you don't properly cut the fishing hole, you could find yourself in trouble pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about ice fishing before.
Yep.
So I definitely agree. I think that could be a possibility. I also think it could end up just being something like she falls through like on accident as well. That wouldn't be as exciting, but like if they're on the ice and it breaks, that would still create some major tension and they still have to rescue her. And we obviously see Travis is the one that's pulling her out of the water in that picture. So he's obviously there too.
And it's interesting that the large group of them are out there, which
Yeah.
would be one flaw in my in the fishing idea, which is why are they all out there for ice fishing? So would seem to indicate something more could be going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're moving
Agree.
locations, or we've seen Ty and Shauna walking through what looks like a blizzard. Maybe they're going back to the wreckage, or maybe they're looking for Javi. I mean, we see Lottie crawling through that hatch tunnel in the next episode as well. So maybe they're all out on some big adventure searching. I'm not sure. But back to the teen timeline in the baby shower for a minute. I would just like to point out Mari and her construction of this baby mobile. It's made with sharp sticks, which, I realize they're using what they have, but I was surprised to see her so invested in making something for the baby when she's been such a cabin Karen these last couple of episodes. I felt like the baby shower was the biggest glint of hope they've seen since Doom coming. I mean,
Yeah.
they're trying to celebrate, take their mind off of things. Van and her little PTP. Oh my god, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I love that.
And then can we just talk about Crystal for a quick second too? That wasn't the first time I've eaten a person. I wasn't sure what she was going to say when she said that. And then, of course, absorbing her own twin, that made perfect sense in the womb or whatever. But
I've said before that I thought Misty would get along great with Dwight Schrute, and that Crystal and Dwight have both absorbed twins.
wow. Yeah, that's a fun fact. I forgot that about Dwight Schrute. That's pretty funny. God, I love The Office. That is such a great show. Speaking of other great shows and people, Elijah Wood, we now have more context on Walter Tattersall. He, of course, was on Wilfred. And what's interesting is that Jeff Holman, who plays Randy, was also on Wilfred. So this is actually not the first time that Jeff Holman and Elijah Wood have worked together. They both were on Wilfred. So I thought that was really kind of funny. I also thought Walter's character was really funny. His interrogation methods, the way that him and Misty tag teamed Randy. I don't know if I trust Walter completely. I mean, he's, giving Misty all these vibes of like friendship and maybe dating. And then, he throws out the maybe I'm, a lonely Moriarty looking for my Sherlock. Thank you to Queen Misty, Aggie African Grey, for that tweet. But what was your take on Walter, Brian? Do you think that he's trustworthy? Is he hiding something? Is he really interested in Misty? What do you think about Walter Tattersall?
I think honestly that he is in way over his head and he doesn't realize it yet. He thinks he's meeting this really interesting kind of kindred spirits, and yeah, he's talking about the Sherlock to his Moriarty, but he's not Moriarty, but he has now met Moriarty. and he didn't realize it yet.
Right,
a great
because
way
of
to put it.
course, Moriarty is an enemy of Sherlock, and they really challenge each other. And that was how Walter was described. Him and Misty's relationship in the season 2 premiere was that Walter was going to be someone who challenges Misty. So I think that
Yeah.
analogy plays well with what they were kind of teasing for their relationship. And as Hannah noted, yes, Walter has definitely been creeping on Misty for a while. We know that that wasn't even his mom that he was bringing into the nursing home, which we suspected, of course. But he's got some stuff going on. So
And it
I
was
love
intriguing.
him.
Oh, forgive me. I'm sorry. I hope it didn't.
oh no, go.
I was going to say that upon rewatching, there was an interesting detail when he talked about the woman he was taking to the nursing home was actually a neighbor of his who was getting evicted, and he was helping her out. And when Misty asks, why would you do that? And he initially replies, "Oh, I've got the cash." And I thought that's really interesting. That one, he can afford to live on a pretty nice houseboat, doesn't really seem to have a job, and can afford to pay for his friend's nursing care. So that tells me that he must have some money put away. And so I'm wondering if maybe he came from the tech sector or some kind of using those computer hacking skills, and he cashed out at some point. So I think that could be it. It suggests an interesting backstory for him as well.
Yeah, maybe he's like an app developer and he sold and developed some, really awesome app or something. But you're right. I mean, he's got to have some resources. It doesn't seem like he actually has a job. And, let's see what Shell's saying. How did he find out Misty's name and where she worked? But apparently doesn't find out that she's a Yellowjacket.
But in the preview for next week, Misty and Walter in the car, and he says to her, "I don't care that you're a Yellowjacket. That happened 30 years ago." And she's like, "Actually, it was 25." So he does know that she's a Yellowjacket, but that just doesn't factor into the equation at all. He just doesn't care, which I find really interesting too, because I feel like Misty might assume that because she is a Yellowjacket, that might be why he has interest in her.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting dichotomy. This is a show that loves to use dichotomies, and you compare him to Adam, who was all the while was doing all this research about Shauna and her experiences, ostensibly so we could better understand her, but still, it's still underhanded. It's still a little bit violating that he's doing all this reading about a traumatic experience, whereas Walter seems to be, based on the preview, coming more from he's familiar, but it doesn't bother him. That's something that maybe Misty can talk about if she's ever ready to.
And I feel like bad for Misty in a way, because I see Walter expressing interest in her and she has so much doubt about him actually being interested in her, but he seems genuine. I mean, it's to be determined whether or not he is, but I feel bad that Misty has to have such deeply embedded trust issues and not give credit to him for actually liking her. Like the way she wiggles and like adjusts her glasses, like she's very much into him, and it's very cute to see that from MFQ, because she's desperate in a way, and I hope that they end up, she gets to experience some sort of love or something. I mean, I don't know if Misty's going to kill him. I do think that somebody will kill him, maybe Shauna, once they find out what he knows about Adam. But I'd like to see Misty like have one successful like quasi relationship this season. She deserves it. I mean, I don't know.
I would love that for our MFQ so much.
I would very much like that too. Just the idea that she is someone with trust issues who I don't think fundamentally believes that she's worthy of love. That date, that amazing date back in the first season, episode 2, and it's full of all this this manipulation she has to resort to, and this kind of self to goad her date into wanting to go home with her, I think I want to be optimistic, but I'm afraid I'm not, because just I think when she's presented with the opportunity for real unconditional love, I'm not sure she's going to know what to do with that. And she's the kind of self-sabotage, I'm afraid.
Oh, I agree completely.
That's right. And we still don't know about Misty's family. We've not seen Mr. and Mrs. Quigley yet and don't know what her family backstory is. Of course, we've seen it with some of the other Yellowjackets, not with Misty. We did see her, of course, watching that rat, drowning in her pool, which was the background that we got. And then, of course, her being bullied on the phone, but still no parent. So I'm interested also to learn more about the characters that we don't have a lot of context and backstory on. Shauna's another one, right? Like, we don't know a lot about her family.
We did get a sibling, though. Everyone's been talking about where are the siblings. We haven't heard of any of the Yellowjackets having siblings, except for Travis and Javi, of course. And then we finally learned Aquila. She's got at least one sister and a niece.
Yes.
So that's our first confirmation that they're not all only children.
That's so true. I didn't even think about that.
Right. And it keeps the possibility that, who knows, maybe one of the siblings comes out of the woodwork at some point for one of the others. I've seen some discussion on Reddit. We see in the credits teen Melissa and teen Jen, right? So does that mean that we're going to have adult Melissa and adult Jen at some point? Like, could they have siblings? Because they don't call her out as teen Crystal in the credits. I believe it's just Crystal, but it's teen Melissa and teen Jen, I think. I'm pretty sure.
We would have to look.
Yeah.
I don't recall, but that would be interesting to see more of them as adults, the core group that we have, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And what about Mari? Do they say teen Mari in the credits, or do they
good question.
I'll have to go back and look at that.
We'll have to look.
I still think Mari's Pit Girl, so whatever.
I do too. I really do think between seeing how cruel she's been to Misty the last couple of episodes, and I keep on trying to figure out why Misty makes that really creepy smile after she takes her mask off back in the pilot. And I really wonder now if she isn't smiling because she finally got payback.
And also in that scene, when she reveals her face underneath her fur, she's wearing Mari's windbreaker jacket, which for me really seals the deal that Mari is Pit Girl, because I cannot see Mari willingly sharing anything with Misty. So for Misty to be wearing that jacket, that just, for me, it confirms that Mari has to be Pit Girl.
And
that's true.
It's like I think we're getting rapidly down to the point where we can't have too many more like what we'll call varsity Yellowjackets, the ones that have had speaking roles that have been named back in season 1. We can't have too many more of them surviving, otherwise that sort of undercuts some of the tension. So I feel like we have to have 1 or 2 of the younger Yellowjackets that make it through, and then some of the other ones may not. And I've said before, I'm still not, we'll find out quickly in episode 4, but I'm not 100% sure if Van is safe or not. Because we've already seen that Ty can have very powerful hallucinations. She hallucinated an entire interaction with Sammy that didn't happen. Probably wrong in this. That's my big high risk bet I'm going to make, is that maybe we find out that adult Van could be another delusion, and that Van may not make it out of the woods.
I never considered that.
That is definitely possible. I've seen some people talking about that on Twitter, that she's just a figment of Ty's imagination and she's not even there. I mean, that would be mind-blowing, but not surprising, given that they've told us not everything is based in reality. So we really don't know until we know. So
I this wager that if this is the case, and again, we'll find out very quickly, because obviously if we have scenes where Van is alone and Ty is not there, that would pretty much clue us in that she has an external existence apart from Ty. But if this theory does hold out. I think we would find out actually sooner rather than later that they wouldn't go for a twist, and that we might wind up with something akin to Shauna and Jackie, where we find out very quickly that Van is a figment, but then she continues on as an adult in Ty's mind as this just horrible, tragic reminder, and then we know that, oh my gosh, Van doesn't make it out.
Wow.
Woo!
That would be mind bending. You need to put that on your Yellowjackets bingo card, Brian.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm wrong. I'm going to edit all my Reddit posts.
All right. Okay, other thoughts on episode 3 before I say goodbye, Brian? Any other takeaways, interesting things? Of course, we're going to do our full recap. There's a lot more to discuss. You know, we have Simone in the hospital, Ty drawing the symbol on her, Mari's hearing dripping, like, you know, all kinds of things going on. But what are some other takeaways from this episode for you?
I've been pondering this, actually. It's more of an analysis than a takeaway. And I've been thinking a lot about the immediate aftermath, you know, the morning after, those very first scenes, and looking at how everyone is reacting after this committing an act of cannibalism. And a number of people on Reddit were commenting on, you know, what's the deal? Some people everywhere, a lot of them are acting so casual about what they just did. Shouldn't, you know, like kind of trying to figure out why more than weren't reacting in a certain way. And I thought it was so well done that they presented this whole range of experiences relating from this. I really started to think of it, they really seemed to treat it almost more as a lustful, almost sexual experience. You know, like Hitchcock had a famous saying, film your murder scenes like love scenes and your love scenes like murder scenes. And the consuming of Jackie has to me, a very orgiastic sexual component. It's highlighted by the whole depicting it as a bacchanalia or a saturnalia. And then the aftermath, everyone seems to be reacting like people after a sexual experience. You have some that are kind of not sure what to make of it. They're traumatized in a way. They're just like, what was that? And you have Ty, whose reactions, she in a sense has experienced a kind of assault, because she was not a conscious in this, and she's realizing what happened, like someone who has been the victim of a date rape. And then you have others who are kind of reacting like kids who have been told that sex is bad and sex is sinful, and then they do it and they're like, oh, I wasn't struck down by God. That's sex. That's all there is. And so you have some who have experienced this taboo, and once the taboo's broken, they're like, oh, that wasn't such a big deal. It was very, very well. I thought it was a really brilliant portrayal of like how a group is going to have a whole range of responses to participating in a very societally taboo act.
Right. And even Coach Ben, with his comment about bringing Jackie's bones back to the plane, was kind of the same thing. His reaction was a little bit of like sarcasm and anger, right? Because he wasn't fully behind the activity that happened, and this sense of awkwardness just in general.
And kind of telling that as the lone adult, he's the one who's thinking of how to cover up what has happened. You know.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can pair her with the others. That was a very interesting thing for him to say as the responsible adult. It really it really shows how he's kind of abrogated and as the adult in the room.
For sure.
Yes. And, you know, I just want to point out, since we were just talking about adult Van maybe being a hallucination, Drew did note that we do see Van in the 1998 plane scene. And then the other forever pointed out, correct, Drew Cat, we did. So we see her getting rescued in 98, but that also doesn't necessarily mean that she survived the 25 years. So
yeah.
And I rewatched it. It's hard to make out. There's one person who I think others have identified as Van, but to me, she looks more like Nat, with her hair having returned to its original undyed color, which is more of a dark brown color. So I personally did not see Van. Not saying that others are incorrect, and fully acknowledging that my theory is definitely a bit of a stretch that will probably be disproven quite quickly the next episode.
But that's okay because it's so much fun speculating, and that's what we all love so much about Yellowjackets is there's so much opportunity to be citizen detectives and speculate, much like we see Walter and Misty doing on Reddit on the show, which is this kind of like meta thing, given that we're also all on Reddit speculating about this. So
just like I'm sure there were a lot of people that were disappointed about Rabies Girl. You know, I think I posted rest in peace 2022.
Yes. Well, hey, Brian, we cannot thank you enough for joining us. We always love to have fans join, get insights, because let's face it, we all see different things when we watch and rewatch, and bouncing these ideas off each other is one of the best parts. So thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back again at some point, and we'll see you on Reddit.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Oh, that was so fun. I love talking to the fans. It's funny putting faces to names too, because you see, everybody has their username and everyone's typing and talking, and faces to names are always really fun. So
yeah,
I like Brian's takes. That was really that was fun. Okay. Let's just highlight a couple more comments while we're still here. The other forever. What if the authorities find the wreckage and locate Jackie's bones with teeth marks on them? Shudder. Yeah, I wonder how much analysis they're going to be doing, or if they'll have these assumptions that, the plane crashed. Maybe some of them, maybe they attribute it to getting eaten by animals, perhaps. I mean, they had the whole wolf thing. So maybe I don't know, make something up.
I think like if they bury her like they buried the rest of them, I can't see them like digging up the people that they said died in the crash to like analyze them. Like I feel like that would be extremely traumatic for the survivors, and it would just be like I just can't see it happening.
Right. But would their families want the remains? I mean, that's the only big question, I guess, is like, I can see the Taylors like, hey, like we want our daughter's remains and like we want them now. Which, could be a little bit awkward, but
yeah.
I think everything's awkward when it comes to the relationship with Jackie's parents and Shauna. So yikes.
Yeah, like I just keep thinking about how does she sit at the table across from them, like knowing that she ate her. Like that thought just keeps going through my mind.
Yeah, it is definitely a little bit awkward. And, as Shell just pointed out, well, traumatic, wouldn't they want to have a service for their lost ones? Of course. I imagine, they had services for everybody along with memorials at the high school, and probably like some kind of an annual celebration of life for them, I would think. And like Hannah said, no way Jackie's stuck up parents left her out there. Yeah, I can't see that either. The real question will be, do they disclose the wilderness baby or not? Like, does the rest of the world know that it existed or not? I'm going to say no, because I think, again, it would have been like all over the headlines. Wilderness baby. We didn't see a baby exit, in the 98 timeline when they were getting rescued and the press was there. So I think they keep it a secret, and that's the big secret. One of them, at least.
Yeah, I'm definitely team no one finds out, just because we've said this so many times. Like, it like Shelly just said in the comments, it would have been front page news. Like there's no other way to put it. It would have been everywhere. So I definitely think that stays a secret for sure.
Yes. And it'll be interesting to see how soon we actually see the baby coming. Now that we've had the baby shower, I feel like things are imminent. It could be any episode now. That means they should be getting some placenta nourishment at some point soon, which may stave off the cannibalism for just a little bit longer. So, we'll see what happens with that. But we're going to have a lot to unpack this week with this episode, of course. We need to dig deeper into, Shauna unraveling in the adult timeline. Gosh, I mean, that whole monologue situation. Jeff calling her Rambo when he said, "What are you, Rambo?" Like, I almost died. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, she basically is Rambo. We have to talk more about Coach Ben's hallucinations. I think it was a telling line when the doctor told Ty that Simone was not out of the woods yet. I think that was a clever little way to state that. So let's see let's see what happens to Simone. So we will have a lot to discuss. We actually also went live the other day with James Shaw on Instagram. So head to our Instagram at Yellowjackets Hive. Check out our recent reel with James. He does these really funny reaction videos to Yellowjackets and movies and some other shows. So you don't want to miss him. But the exciting news is, again, next week we have Luciano, who plays Javi, joining us right here on the Hive After Dark, immediately following the airing on Showtime. The following week, we have Nuha, who plays Crystal, and we will also have Jenna Burgess joining us, who plays Melissa. So we are very excited to be speaking with some cast members moving forward. And, again, we just thank you guys all for being here, consuming our content. We have so much fun making it. Thanks to Brian for joining us tonight. Cinecraft on Reddit. We love him. Super fun.
Yes. All right. So until we spill again.